Maya's hands shook as she stared at the envelope on her kitchen table. The return address belonged to Elijah Stone, the billionaire CEO she had spent one unforgettable night with 5 years ago. The same man who had no idea he was the father of her triplets. The same man whose lawyers had somehow tracked her down after all this time. Her 3 children were playing in the living room, unaware that their whole world might be about to change. Zara, the oldest by 2 minutes, was bossing around her brothers as usual. Little Aiden was quietly building with blocks in the corner, while Mason, always the troublemaker, was trying to climb the bookshelf again. "Mason, get down from there right now," Maya called, momentarily distracted from the envelope. She rushed over to help him down, her heart racing not just from the scare but from the knowledge of what awaited her back at the kitchen table. 5 years ago, Maya Jackson had been a catering assistant working at one of Elijah's famous charity galas. Their eyes had met across the crowded ballroom, and by the end of the night, they ended up in his penthouse suite. It was supposed to be just one night, no strings, no complications, no future. But then came the positive pregnancy test, and then the ultrasound revealing not 1 baby but 3. Maya had tried to contact him afterward. She called his office multiple times, but his assistants blocked her calls, probably thinking she was just another woman trying to get close to their wealthy boss. After weeks of trying, she gave up. She decided to raise her children on her own, working 2 jobs and moving to a smaller town where the cost of living was more affordable. Now, 5 years later, he had found her. But how? And why now? With trembling fingers, Maya finally opened the envelope. Inside was a formal letter requesting her presence at Stone Enterprises headquarters on Monday morning at 10 a.m. There was a check attached for $5,000 to cover travel expenses. The letter was signed by Elijah himself. Maya sank down into her chair, the letter clutched in her hand. What did he want? Did he somehow discover the truth about the triplets? Was he going to try to take her children away from her? The thought made her sick with fear. She looked over at her babies, they were her whole world. Zara with her serious eyes and leadership skills, quiet and thoughtful Aiden, and wild, fearless Mason. They all had Elijah's eyes, those piercing gray eyes that had captivated her that night. Maya had worked so hard to give them a good life. Their small house wasn't fancy, but it was filled with love. She had just been promoted at the local community center where she worked, and the kids were happy at their preschool. They had a routine, stability. Now Elijah Stone was threatening to turn everything upside down. Maya picked up her phone and called her best friend Tasha. "He found me," she said when Tasha answered. "Who found you?" Tasha asked, confusion in her voice. "Elijah Stone, the triplets' father. He wants to meet me on Monday." There was silence on the other end, then Tasha said, "Oh my God. What are you going to do?" Maya looked at the check in her hand. $5,000 was more money than she had seen at once in a long time. "I guess I'm going to New York," she said quietly. "And the kids? They're coming with me. If he wants to see me, he's going to see them too." It's time he knew the truth. As Maya hung up the phone, Mason came running into the kitchen, his little face bright with excitement. "Mommy, look what I made," he shouted, holding up a crayon drawing of what looked like 5 stick figures. "That's beautiful, baby," Maya said, forcing a smile. "Who are these people?" Mason pointed to each figure. "That's me and Zara and Aiden and you, Mommy." Then he pointed to the tallest figure, drawn in black crayon. "And that's our daddy in heaven." Maya's heart broke a little. She had told the children their father was far away, and somehow they had interpreted that to mean he was in heaven. She had never corrected them because it seemed easier than explaining the truth. But now the truth was coming for them all, in the form of an envelope and a meeting that could change everything. Maya pulled Mason into a tight hug, breathing in the sweet scent of his hair. "I love you so much," she whispered. "I love you too, Mommy," he replied, squirming to get free. "Can I have a snack?" Maya laughed despite her worry. Some things never changed, no matter what storm was brewing on the horizon. "Yes, you can have a snack," she said, getting up to cut some apple slices. As she prepared the snack, she made a decision. She would go to New York and she would face Elijah Stone. Not just for herself but for her children. They deserved to know their father, and he deserved to know them, even if the revelation turned his world upside down just as it had turned hers 5 years ago. What Maya didn't know was that Elijah's world was already upside down, and this meeting was about to change both their lives in ways neither of them could imagine. The plane touched down at JFK Airport with a bump that woke Aiden from his nap. Maya gently stroked his hair as he blinked awake, looking around in confusion at the unfamiliar surroundings. "Are we there, Mommy?" he asked sleepily. "Yes, baby, we're in New York," Maya answered, trying to keep her voice steady despite the knot of anxiety in her stomach. Zara, who had been reading a picture book, looked up with excitement. "Can we see the tall buildings now?" "Soon," Maya promised. "First we need to get our bags and find our hotel." Mason had his face pressed against the window, eyes wide with wonder at the busy tarmac. "So many planes," he exclaimed. Maya had never traveled with all 3 children by herself before. The logistics were overwhelming: 3 car seats, a stroller, 3 small suitcases plus her own, and 3 energetic 5-year-olds who had never been on a plane before. But Elijah's check had made it possible, paying for their flights, a family suite at a nice hotel, and even a car service to pick them up. As they made their way through the crowded airport, Maya felt people staring at her. A young black woman traveling alone with triplets was apparently quite a sight. She kept her head high and her eyes forward, focusing on getting them all safely to the waiting car. The driver held up a sign that read "Jackson Family," and helped load all their belongings into the large SUV. As they drove toward Manhattan, the kids pressed their faces against the windows, awed by the towering skyscrapers coming into view. "Mommy, look." Zara pointed excitedly. "It's like in the books." Maya smiled at her daughter's excitement, trying to push away thoughts of tomorrow's meeting. She had told the children they were taking a special trip to New York, but hadn't mentioned anything about meeting their father. How could she explain something she didn't understand herself? Their hotel room was nicer than anywhere they'd ever stayed, with 2 bedrooms, a living area, and a small kitchenette. The kids immediately began exploring, opening drawers and bouncing on beds. "Can we go swimming?" Mason asked, having discovered the hotel had a pool. "Not today, sweetie. We need to get settled and have dinner. Maybe tomorrow after." Maya trailed off, not wanting to finish the sentence. After putting the kids to bed that night, Maya stood by the window of their suite, looking out at the glittering city. Somewhere out there was Elijah Stone, the man who had changed her life in more ways than one. She remembered their night together so clearly. The way he had looked at her across the room as if she were the only person there. The intensity in his gray eyes when they finally spoke. The gentleness of his touch despite his powerful presence. He had been unlike anyone she'd ever met, confident but not arrogant, wealthy but not flashy, powerful but not intimidating. Until the next morning, when he had transformed back into the untouchable billionaire, politely but firmly showing her out of his life with a kiss on the cheek and a "I'll call you." But he never did. Maya touched her reflection in the glass. At 32 she still looked young, but raising triplets on her own had left its mark. There were fine lines around her eyes now, and a permanent worry crease between her brows. Her once carefree spirit had been tempered by responsibility and sacrifice. What would Elijah think when he saw her again? And more importantly, what would he think when he saw their children? Maya's phone pinged with a text message. It was from an unknown number. "Car will pick you up at 9:30 a.m. Looking forward to seeing you." Yes. Maya's heart raced. So he was personally involved in this meeting. This wasn't just some legal formality being handled by his staff. She replied with a simple, "We'll be ready." Then she turned off the lights and tried to sleep, though her mind kept racing with possibilities. By morning, Elijah Stone would know he was a father. By tomorrow night, her children would know they had a father who was very much alive and not in heaven. Everything was about to change, and Maya wasn't sure if she was ready. The Stone Enterprises building dominated the Manhattan skyline, a towering structure of glass and steel that reflected the morning sun. Maya stood on the sidewalk, holding hands with Zara and Aiden while Mason clung to her leg, suddenly shy in the face of the imposing building. "Is this where the rich man lives, Mommy?" Zara asked, her head tilted all the way back to see the top of the skyscraper. Maya swallowed hard. "This is where he works, sweetie. Remember what I told you? We're going to meet someone very important today." She had tried to prepare them during breakfast, explaining in simple terms that they were going to meet their father. The children had responded with confusion and curiosity. "But isn't our daddy in heaven?" Mason had asked, his forehead wrinkled in confusion. "No, baby. Your daddy has been away. He didn't know about you before, but now he wants to meet you." "Why didn't he know about us?" Zara had demanded, always the one to ask the hard questions. "It's complicated, sweetie," Maya had answered, not knowing how to explain a one-night stand to 5-year-olds. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. But him not knowing you was my mistake, not his." Now, as they entered the gleaming lobby with its marble floors and modern art, Maya wondered if bringing the children had been a mistake. Maybe she should have met with Elijah alone first, prepared him for the shock. But deep down she knew this was the right way. If he was going to be part of their lives, he needed to see them together as the family they were. The receptionist looked up as they approached, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of the triplets. "May I help you?" she asked. "I'm Maya Jackson. I have a 10 a.m. appointment with Mr. Stone." The woman's expression changed to one of recognition. "Yes, Miss Jackson. Mr. Stone is expecting you. Please follow me." They were led to a private elevator that whisked them up to the top floor. The children were quiet, sensing their mother's tension. Even Mason, usually bursting with energy, held tightly to Maya's hand. The elevator opened directly into a spacious waiting area. A tall, elegant woman who introduced herself as Mr. Stone's executive assistant greeted them. "Mr. Stone is finishing up a call. He'll be with you shortly. Can I get you anything? Water? Juice for the children?" Maya declined, her stomach too knotted to consider drinking anything. The assistant's eyes kept darting to the triplets, who were now sitting quietly on a sleek leather sofa, their legs dangling. "They're very well behaved," the woman commented. "Thank you," Maya replied. "They understand this is an important meeting." A few minutes later, a door opened and there he was. Elijah Stone looked even more handsome than Maya remembered. His dark skin gleamed under the office lights, and his custom suit fit his athletic frame perfectly. His closely cropped hair was still the same, though there might have been a touch of gray at the temples that hadn't been there 5 years ago. But it was his eyes that stopped Maya's breath, those intense gray eyes that all 3 of her children had inherited. Elijah froze in the doorway, his gaze moving from Maya to the 3 small children sitting on his sofa. Children with his eyes. The blood drained from his face as understanding dawned. "Maya," he said, his deep voice exactly as she remembered it. Then his eyes locked on the triplets again. "What? Who?" Maya stood up straighter. "Elijah, I'd like you to meet Zara, Aiden, and Mason. Our children." The silence that followed was deafening. Elijah's assistant, sensing the tension, quietly excused herself and closed the door behind her. Elijah took a step forward, then another, approaching the children as if in a trance. He knelt down to their level, his eyes moving from one small face to another. "Hello," he said, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "Are you our daddy?" Zara asked bluntly, studying his face with the same intensity he was studying hers. Elijah looked up at Maya, shock and question in his eyes. Maya nodded. "Yes, he is," she confirmed. Mason jumped off the sofa and walked right up to Elijah, examining him closely. "You don't look like you were in heaven," he declared. Despite the tension, Maya couldn't help but laugh. "I told you this morning, sweetie. Daddy wasn't in heaven. That was a misunderstanding." Aiden, always the quietest, hadn't moved from the sofa. He was watching Elijah with solemn eyes, taking in every detail. Elijah seemed at a loss for words. He stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving the children. Why didn't you tell me?" he finally managed to ask Maya. "I tried," she said, keeping her voice level for the sake of the children. "I called your office dozens of times after I found out I was pregnant. Your staff wouldn't put me through. They probably thought I was just some woman trying to get your attention." Elijah ran a hand over his face. 5 years?" he murmured. "I've missed 5 years." "We can discuss this privately," Maya suggested, nodding toward the curious children. Elijah nodded and pressed a button on his desk. His assistant reappeared almost instantly. "Patricia, could you take these children to the break room? I believe there are cookies and some toys from the company childcare center." Patricia looked surprised but quickly composed herself. "Of course, Mr. Stone. Would that be okay, Miss Jackson?" Maya hesitated, reluctant to let the children out of her sight in this unfamiliar place. But she needed to talk to Elijah alone. "It's okay, Mommy," Zara assured her, always the little mother. "We'll be good." "I know you will, baby. I'll be right in here if you need me." Once the door closed behind the children, Elijah turned to Maya, his expression a mix of shock, confusion, and something else she couldn't quite read. "Triplets," he said as if testing the word. "I have 3 children. 3 5-year-old children I knew nothing about." "I tried to tell you," Maya repeated. "After that, I did what I had to do. I raised them on my own." "Why now?" Elijah asked. "Why did you come now?" Maya looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean? You sent for me. The letter, the check for travel expenses." Now it was Elijah's turn to look confused. "What letter? What check? I didn't send anything." They stared at each other in bewilderment until understanding dawned on both of them simultaneously. "Thomas," Elijah said. "Who's Thomas?" Maya asked. "My brother. My twin brother." Maya felt like she might faint. You have a twin brother? Elijah nodded grimly. He's been searching for you for over a year. Ever since I got sick. Sick? What do you mean? Elijah gestured for her to sit down, then sat across from her. I needed a kidney transplant last year. Thomas wasn't a match and neither were my parents. Thomas became obsessed with finding any blood relatives who might be able to help. He looked toward the door where the children had gone. He must have somehow found out about them. Maya's head was spinning with this new information. So you really didn't know about the children? And you didn't send for me? No, Elijah said softly. But I'm very glad he did. Their eyes met and for a moment, it was like 5 years hadn't passed at all. Then reality came crashing back as they heard Mason's laugh from somewhere down the hall. We have a lot to talk about, Elijah said. Maya nodded. Yes, we do. Thomas Stone arrived at his brother's office an hour later, stopping short when he saw Maya sitting across from Elijah. The resemblance between the brothers was uncanny. They had the same tall, athletic build, the same handsome features, the same gray eyes. The only noticeable difference was that Thomas wore his hair slightly longer and had a small scar above his right eyebrow. You, Maya said, rising to her feet. You're the one who sent the letter. Thomas had the grace to look embarrassed. I see my brother has figured it out. He turned to Elijah. Before you get angry? Too late for that, Elijah interrupted, his voice cold. You went behind my back, Thomas? To save your life. Thomas protested. The doctor said you need a kidney from a close blood relative. Mom and Dad and I weren't matches. I had to find another way. So you tracked down a woman I spent one night with 5 years ago? Thomas looked at Maya. I hired a private investigator. When he found Ms. Jackson, he also discovered she had triplets. The timing matched up. He shrugged. I took a chance. A chance that changed all our lives, Maya said quietly. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Maya looked between the two brothers, wondering how it was possible that she had spent the most passionate night of her life with one of them, had 3 children whose father was the other one, and yet until today she had no idea there were 2 of them. Where are they? Thomas asked, looking around as if expecting to see the children hiding somewhere. In the break room with Patricia, Elijah answered. And you're not meeting them until we sort this out. Just then, the door burst open and Mason ran in, followed by a flustered Patricia and his siblings. I'm sorry, Mr. Stone, Patricia said breathlessly. He's very quick. Mason stopped in his tracks when he saw the 2 identical men. His eyes went wide and he looked back and forth between them in confusion. 2 daddies? He asked. Zara and Aiden entered more slowly, both stopping to stare at the identical men. No, buddy, Elijah said gently, kneeling down to Mason's level. I'm your daddy. This is your Uncle Thomas. You look the same, Zara observed, studying them both carefully. That's because we're twins, Thomas explained, his voice softening as he addressed the children. Like how you 3 look alike because you're triplets. But we don't look exactly the same, Aiden pointed out quietly, speaking up for the first time. Thomas smiled. You're right. And if you look closely, your dad and I aren't exactly the same either. See this scar? He pointed to his eyebrow. I got that when we were 10. Your dad dared me to climb a tree and I fell. I didn't dare you, Elijah protested automatically, then stopped himself. Actually, this isn't the time for childhood stories. But the ice had been broken. The children were now curious about their new uncle, and Thomas seemed genuinely delighted to meet them. Maya watched as both brothers interacted with the triplets, struck by how natural Elijah seemed with them despite having just learned of their existence. He had Zara's seriousness, Aiden's quietness, and Mason's impulsiveness. It was like seeing parts of him reflected in each child. Patricia, Elijah said, could you take the children to the company daycare center? I believe they're having a special activity day. Of course, Mr. Stone. This time the children went more willingly, excited by the prospect of meeting other kids. Once they were gone, Elijah turned to his brother. Start talking. Thomas sighed. Look, I know I should have told you what I was doing. But you were so stubborn about the transplant list, saying you'd wait your turn like everyone else. Meanwhile, you were getting sicker every day. He looked at Maya. I had no idea that you had tried to contact him, or that he didn't know about the children. I assumed. He trailed off. You assumed I knew I had children and had abandoned them? Elijah's voice was icy. No. I thought maybe it was complicated. Maybe you were supporting them financially but weren't involved. I don't know. Thomas ran a hand through his hair. When the PI showed me pictures of the kids, I knew they were yours. They have our eyes. Maya watched the brothers, feeling like she was seeing a well-worn dynamic play out. Thomas, impulsive and emotional. Elijah, controlled and responsible. "So what was your plan?" she asked Thomas. "Get me here and then what? Ask me to have my children tested as kidney donors?" Thomas looked horrified. "No. Never. Children are a last resort for living donation, and only in the most desperate cases. But blood relatives often share certain genetic markers. I was hoping that you might be a match, or that the children's existence might help us find other relatives we didn't know about." Maya looked to Elijah. "Are you really that sick?" Elijah hesitated, then nodded. "My kidneys are failing. I've been on dialysis for 6 months. I'm on the transplant list, but the wait could be years." For the first time since entering his office, Maya really looked at Elijah. Behind the expensive suit and confident posture, she could see signs of illness she had missed before. The slight pallor beneath his dark skin. The faint shadows under his eyes. The barely noticeable swelling in his hands. "I'll get tested," she said without hesitation. Both brothers looked at her in surprise. "You don't have to do that," Elijah said. "You don't owe me anything. I'm not doing it because I owe you. I'm doing it for our children. They deserve to have their father in their lives." She looked at Thomas. "And their uncle too, I suppose, though you and I will be having a longer conversation about your methods." Thomas had the grace to look ashamed. "I deserve that. But thank you for considering it." Elijah was still looking at Maya, something unreadable in his expression. "You would do that? After I've been absent for 5 years?" "You weren't absent by choice," Maya pointed out. "And yes, I would. Not just for the kids. But..." She trailed off, not sure how to express what she was feeling. The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and memories of a night 5 years ago that had changed both their lives forever. Finally, Elijah stood up. "We have a lot to figure out. Custody, support, living arrangements. But first, I want to spend time with my children. Really get to know them." "They'd like that," Maya said softly. "They've always wondered about their father." Thomas cleared his throat. "I should go. Let you two talk." He headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry for the deception. But I'm not sorry they found each other." With that, he left, closing the door behind him. Maya and Elijah looked at each other, alone for the first time in 5 years. "I never forgot you," Elijah said suddenly. "That night. I tried to find you afterward, but the catering company said you had quit, and no one knew where you had gone. I moved when I found out I was pregnant," Maya explained. "I couldn't afford New York on my own with 3 babies." Elijah moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "I wish I had known. I would have been there. For all of you." "I believe you," Maya said softly. And she did. Despite everything, she could see the sincerity in his eyes, the same eyes that had captivated her 5 years ago, the same eyes their children had inherited. "We can't get those years back," Elijah said, "but we have now. And the future." Maya nodded, hope blooming in her chest for the first time since receiving that envelope. "Yes, we have the future." The next few days passed in a whirlwind. Maya extended their hotel stay, and Elijah visited every day after work, spending hours getting to know his children. He was a natural with them, patient with Zara's many questions, gentle with Aiden's shyness, and energetic enough to keep up with Mason's constant motion. On the 3rd day, Maya underwent testing to see if she was a potential kidney donor match for Elijah. The children stayed with Thomas during her hospital visit, an arrangement that had made Maya nervous at first, but Thomas had proven to be a doting uncle, eager to make up for his deception. "How are you feeling?" Elijah asked when he picked her up from the hospital. He had insisted on coming himself rather than sending a car. "Fine. Just a little tired from all the blood draws." Maya looked out the window of his luxury SUV as they drove through the city. "When will we know the results?" "A few days," Elijah said, his hands tightening slightly on the steering wheel. "But Maya, regardless of what they show, I want you to know how much I appreciate you doing this. Like I said, it's for the children." But even as she said it, Maya knew it wasn't just for them. Despite everything, despite the years apart and the complicated circumstances of their reunion, she still felt drawn to Elijah. Being around him these past few days had only strengthened that feeling. Instead of heading back to the hotel, Elijah turned the car toward Central Park. "Where are we going?" Maya asked. "I thought we were picking up the kids at Thomas's place." "We are, but not until later. Thomas is taking them to a children's museum this afternoon." Elijah glanced at her. "I thought maybe we could have some time, just the two of us. To talk." He parked near the park and they walked together along the winding paths. It was a beautiful spring day, the trees filled with new leaves and flowers blooming everywhere. I keep thinking about how different things could have been, Elijah said as they walked. If I had found you after that night. If your calls had been put through to me. If we had had a chance to see if what we felt was more than just one night. Maya looked at him in surprise. You felt it too? Elijah stopped walking and turned to face her. Of course I did. Maya, I've had relationships before. I've dated many women. But what I felt with you that night, it was different. Special. I think that's why I never settled down with anyone else. No one ever measured up to the memory of you. Maya's heart was pounding. I thought it was just me. I thought I was just another woman to you. Never, Elijah said firmly. You were unforgettable. They continued walking, a new understanding between them. Tell me about the children, Elijah said. About when they were babies. I've missed so much. Maya smiled, remembering. It was the hardest and most wonderful time of my life. The pregnancy was difficult, triplets always are. I was on bed rest for the last 2 months. You went through that alone, Elijah said, his voice heavy with regret. I had help. My mom came to stay with me until the babies were 6 months old. Then I had a neighbor who watched them while I worked. But yes, it was hard. They each had different personalities right from the start, Maya continued. Zara was always in charge, even as a tiny baby. She would cry when her brothers needed something, almost like she was alerting me. Aiden was the easiest, so calm and watchful. And Mason. She laughed. Mason has never stopped moving since the day he was born. Elijah smiled, absorbing every detail. They're amazing. You've done an incredible job raising them. Thank you, Maya said softly. That means a lot. They found a bench overlooking a small pond and sat down. For a while, they just watched the ducks swimming, comfortable in each other's presence. What happens next? Maya finally asked. After we go back home? Elijah turned to her. Is that what you want? To go back? Maya sighed. Our life is there. My job, the kids' school, our house. What if you could have a life here? Elijah asked. All of you? Maya's heart skipped a beat. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to be part of my children's lives. Every day, not just on visits or holidays. I'm saying I want a chance to know you better, to see if what we felt that night could grow into something real and lasting. Elijah. I know it's fast, he interrupted. I know we have a lot to learn about each other. But these past few days watching you with our children, talking with you, it feels right, Maya. It feels like finding something I didn't even know I was missing. Maya looked into his eyes, those gray eyes that had haunted her dreams for 5 years. It's not that simple. You're a billionaire CEO. I'm a community center program coordinator from a small town. Our worlds are completely different. But we made 3 beautiful children together, Elijah pointed out. How different can we really be where it counts? A duck waddled up to them looking for bread, and they both laughed as it quacked demandingly. I'm not saying move in with me tomorrow, Elijah clarified. I'm saying give us a chance. Stay in New York a little longer. Let me help you find a place. Let me spend more time with the kids. Let me take you to dinner, just the 2 of us. Let's see where this goes. Maya thought about it. About her small house back home, about her job that paid just enough to get by, about the schools in her town that were decent but not great. Then she thought about the opportunity her children would have here, about the chance to know their father, about the possibility of finding out if the connection she felt with Elijah could be the beginning of something wonderful. Okay, she said finally. We'll stay. For a while. But no promises beyond that. Elijah's smile was like the sun coming out. That's all I'm asking for. A chance. He took her hand in his, and they sat together in comfortable silence, watching the ducks on the pond and thinking about possibilities neither had imagined just a week ago. The call came on a Tuesday morning, a week after Maya's tests. She was in the kitchen of the temporary apartment Elijah had arranged for them, making breakfast for the kids, when her phone rang. Miss Jackson? This is Dr. Patel from Mount Sinai Hospital. I have your test results. Maya's heart raced as she stepped into the living room for privacy. Yes, doctor. Am I a match? There was a pause, then, I'm afraid not, Ms. Jackson. Your blood type is compatible, but there are other markers that don't align. I'm sorry. Maya felt a wave of disappointment. I understand. Thank you for letting me know. She hung up and sat down heavily on the sofa. The children were happily eating their breakfast, unaware of the weight of the news she had just received. How was she going to tell Elijah? As if summoned by her thoughts, her phone rang again. It was him. You heard? she asked without preamble. Yes, Elijah confirmed, his voice steady. Dr. Patel called me right after he spoke with you. I'm so sorry, Elijah. Don't be, he said firmly. The fact that you were willing to try means everything to me. We always knew it was a long shot. What happens now? Maya asked. Now we keep looking for a match. And in the meantime I continue dialysis. His voice softened. This doesn't change anything between us, Maya. Not for me. I know, she said, but worry not at her. Elijah was sick, sicker than he let on most days. What if they ran out of time? I need to finish getting the kids ready for their tour of the school, Maya said, trying to keep her voice normal. Elijah had arranged for the triplets to visit an excellent private school, one that had miraculously had 3 spots open for the next term. I'll pick you all up afterward, Elijah promised. I want to hear all about it. After she hung up, Maya returned to the kitchen, pasting on a smile for the children. But inside, her heart was heavy with worry for Elijah and what this meant for their future together. Mommy, is Daddy coming to see the school too? Zara asked as Maya helped her put on her shoes. Not this morning, sweetie. Daddy has to work. But he'll pick us up afterward. The children had adapted to their new reality with surprising ease. They adored their father, soaking up his attention like flowers turning toward the sun. And they loved their Uncle Thomas too, despite Maya's initial reservations. Thomas had proven himself to be genuinely remorseful for his deception and truly devoted to his newfound niece and nephews. The school tour went well. The triplets were on their best behavior, impressed by the bright classrooms, extensive playground, and friendly teachers. The admissions director seemed equally impressed with them, especially when Zara asked intelligent questions about the library and Aiden demonstrated his advanced reading skills. As promised, Elijah was waiting for them when they finished. The children ran to him, all talking at once about what they had seen. One at a time, Elijah laughed, kneeling down to their level. Mason, you first. They have a science lab with real frogs. Mason exclaimed. And the biggest library I've ever seen, Zara added, not waiting her turn. I like the music room, Aiden said quietly. Elijah listened to each of them, asking questions and showing genuine interest in their experiences. Maya watched them together, her heart full despite her worry. In just a few weeks, they had become a family in a way she had never dared to hope for. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Elijah and Maya sat on the balcony of the apartment, sharing a bottle of wine. They loved the school, Maya said. And the school loved them, Elijah replied with a proud smile. The admissions director called me afterward. They're in if we want the spots. Maya took a sip of her wine, considering. It's a wonderful opportunity for them. But it would mean staying in New York permanently. Is that such a bad thing? Elijah asked softly. No, Maya admitted. It's just a big change. They were silent for a moment, looking out at the city lights. I've been thinking, Elijah said finally. About us. About the future. Elijah. Let me finish, he interrupted gently. I know it's fast. I know we're still getting to know each other again. But these past few weeks have shown me what I want, Maya. I want us to be a real family. Maya's heart skipped a beat. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I never stopped loving you after that night 5 years ago. And I'm saying I want us to build a life together if you'll give me the chance. Maya looked into his eyes, those familiar gray eyes that now looked back at her from her children's faces every day. I'm scared, she admitted. Not just of how fast this is happening but of losing you. You're sick, Elijah. What if? I'm not going anywhere, Elijah said firmly, taking her hand. We'll find a donor. And even if we don't right away, I can live with dialysis for years if necessary. I'm not giving up, Maya. Not when I've just found you and our children. Maya wanted to believe him. But the shadow of his illness hung over them, making the future uncertain in a way that terrified her. One day at a time, she suggested. Let's take this one day at a time. Elijah nodded, understanding her caution. One day at a time, he agreed. Starting with tomorrow. I want to take all of you to meet my parents. They're dying to meet their grandchildren. Maya's eyes widened. Your parents? Are you sure they're ready for that? Elijah laughed. They've been ready since Thomas told them about the triplets. They've been shopping for grandparent gifts for weeks. I've been holding them off to give you time to adjust. The thought of meeting Elijah's parents was intimidating. These were people who had raised 2 successful sons, who moved in circles of wealth and power that Maya had only glimpsed. What would they think of her? As if reading her thoughts, Elijah squeezed her hand. They'll love you, Maya. Because I do. Those words, spoken so simply and with such conviction, melted something inside her. Maybe it was too fast. Maybe there were still 1,000 things that could go wrong. But sitting there with Elijah under the stars, Maya allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could have the happy ending she had never dared to dream of. The Stone family estate was located in the wealthy enclave of Bedford, a little over an hour's drive from the city. As Elijah's car pulled through the ornate gates and up the long driveway, Maya felt her anxiety rising. "You didn't tell me your parents lived in a mansion," she whispered to Elijah. He glanced at her, his expression apologetic. "It's just a house." "A house with its own gatehouse," Maya pointed out. In the back seat, the children were pressing their faces against the windows, awed by the sprawling grounds and the imposing stone house at the end of the drive. "Is this a castle?" Mason asked excitedly. "No, buddy, it's your grandparents' house," Elijah explained. Maya smoothed her dress nervously. She had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a simple but elegant blue sundress. The children were dressed in their best clothes, something Elijah had insisted wasn't necessary, but Maya had been adamant about making a good first impression. As the car stopped in front of the house, the front door opened and an older couple emerged. Harold Stone was tall and distinguished, with gray hair and the same striking eyes as his sons. Diane Stone was a petite woman with a warm smile and an elegant bearing. Before Elijah could even help the children out of the car, Diane was hurrying down the steps. "Oh my goodness, look at them," she exclaimed, her eyes bright with emotion. "Harold, look at our grandchildren." Maya watched nervously as the older couple approached. But her fears were quickly put to rest as Diane knelt down to the children's level, her face alight with joy. "Hello, darlings. I'm your grandma Diane. And this is your grandpa Harold. We are so happy to meet you." Zara, always the brave one, stepped forward first. "I'm Zara. I'm the oldest. This is Aiden and that's Mason. He's the youngest." "Only by 3 minutes," Mason protested, making everyone laugh. Harold Stone, who had been hanging back slightly, moved closer, his eyes suspiciously bright. "They have our eyes, Diane. Our family eyes." "They certainly do," Diane agreed, straightening up to look at Maya. "And you must be Maya. Thank you for bringing these beautiful children into our lives." Before Maya could respond, she found herself enveloped in a warm hug. Over Diane's shoulder, she saw Harold extend his hand to her. "Welcome to our family, Maya," he said formally, but with genuine warmth in his voice. The tension Maya had been carrying melted away. These weren't the cold, judgmental aristocrats she had feared. They were simply grandparents eager to know their grandchildren. The day passed in a blur of activity. The children explored the massive garden with its maze and koi pond. They played on the vintage playground equipment that Diane explained had been installed for Elijah and Thomas when they were boys. They were shown family photos and given small gifts that Diane had been collecting since learning of their existence. "I hope it's not too much," Diane said to Maya as they watched the children exploring the playroom. "I've been waiting a long time to be a grandmother." "It's perfect," Maya assured her. "They're having the time of their lives." Diane hesitated, then said, "Elijah told us about his health situation, and about your generous offer to be tested." Maya shook her head. "It wasn't generous. It was necessary. I just wish I had been a match." "You're a remarkable young woman," Diane said. "I can see why our son is so taken with you." Maya blushed. "We're still figuring things out." Diane patted her hand. "Of course you are. But a mother knows. I haven't seen Elijah look at anyone the way he looks at you. Not ever." Later, while the children were napping after the excitement of the morning, the adults gathered in the sunroom for tea. Thomas had joined them, greeting Maya with a slightly shamefaced smile that she returned easily. Despite their rocky start, she had grown fond of Elijah's impulsive twin. "Have you thought about what you'll do about school?" Harold asked. Elijah mentioned the triplets visited Parker Academy. "They loved it," Maya admitted. "And the school has offered them places for the fall term." "So you'll be staying in New York?" Diane asked, trying and failing to hide her hopefulness. Maya looked at Elijah, who was watching her with those intense gray eyes. "We're still deciding. It's a big move." "Of course it is," Harold agreed. "But you should know that whatever you decide, we want to be part of your lives. All of you. Even if that means we come to visit you in." Thomas trailed off, realizing he didn't know where Maya lived. "Millfield," Maya supplied. "It's a small town in Pennsylvania. Even if that means we come to visit you in Millfield," Harold finished. "Though I hope you'll consider staying closer." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a sleepy-eyed Mason, who climbed onto Maya's lap without a word. "Did you have a good nap?" she asked, stroking his hair. He nodded, then looked around at the adults. "Why is everyone so serious?" "We're just having a grown-up talk," Elijah explained. "About what?" Mason asked. The adults exchanged glances. "About where we're going to live," Maya said finally. Mason perked up. "Are we going to live with Daddy?" "Well, we haven't decided yet," Maya started, but Mason wasn't listening. "I want to live with Daddy," he declared. "And Uncle Thomas. And Grandma and Grandpa. Can we, Mommy? Can we stay?" More tests are scheduled for next week. If everything continues to look good, the surgery could be as soon as next month. Maya reached across the table to take his hand. "That's the best news, Elijah. I'm so happy." He squeezed her hand. "There's more. More good news?" "I hope so." Elijah took a deep breath. "Maya, these past few months with you and the children have been the happiest of my life. I know we've moved quickly, but when you know something is right, why wait?" Maya's breath caught in her throat as Elijah stood and came around to her side of the table. When he knelt down on one knee, she felt tears spring to her eyes. "Maya Jackson, I've loved you since the first moment I saw you, even if I didn't recognize it then. We lost 5 years, but I don't want to lose another day. Will you marry me? Will you make our family official?" In his hand was an open ring box containing a stunning emerald-cut diamond set in platinum. "Elijah," Maya whispered, overwhelmed by emotion. "I know it hasn't been long," he said quickly. "And if you're not ready, I understand. We can wait. I just want you to know that I'm sure. About you. About us." Maya looked into those gray eyes that had captivated her from the beginning, eyes now filled with love and hope and just a touch of vulnerability. "Yes," she said, her voice stronger now. "Yes, I'll marry you." Elijah's face lit up with joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, catching the light and sending prisms dancing across the tablecloth. "I love you," he said, rising to pull her into his arms. "I love you too," Maya answered, and in that moment, all her doubts and fears seemed to fade away. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. As if on cue, music began to play, their song from that night 5 years ago. Elijah led her to the small dance floor that had been set up in the center of the restaurant. "Did you plan all this?" Maya asked as they swayed to the music. "I hoped," Elijah admitted. "I didn't want to presume, but I hoped you'd say yes." Maya laughed. "You're a very confident man, Elijah Stone." "Only about the things that truly matter," he replied, pulling her closer. They danced under the city lights, celebrating not just their engagement but the journey that had brought them to this moment. A journey that had begun with a chance meeting, continued through years of separation, and now promised a future together that neither of them had dared to imagine. The day of Elijah's transplant surgery dawned clear and bright, a perfect late August morning. Maya had spent the night at the hospital with him, while Diane and Harold had stayed with the children at the penthouse where they now all lived together. "Are you nervous?" Maya asked, sitting on the edge of Elijah's hospital bed and holding his hand. "A little," he admitted. "But mostly I'm eager to get it over with. To start our new life without this hanging over us." Maya nodded, understanding completely. The past month had been a whirlwind of medical appointments and wedding planning. They had decided on a small ceremony in October, just family and close friends, followed by a honeymoon to Barbados if Elijah's recovery went as expected. The door opened and Thomas entered, carrying coffee for Maya and himself. "How's the patient this morning?" he asked, handing Maya her cup. "Ready to go," Elijah replied with a smile. The brothers exchanged a look that spoke volumes: fear, hope, love, all wrapped up in that silent communication that twins often share. "Did you bring it?" Elijah asked. Thomas nodded, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small box, which he handed to Elijah. "Bring what?" Maya asked, confused. Elijah opened the box to reveal a delicate gold locket. "It's a gift. For Claire, my donor. I wanted to give her something to thank her for what she's doing." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes at this thoughtful gesture. It was so like Elijah to think of others, even on a day when he was facing major surgery. "We had it engraved," Thomas added. "It says, 'Thank you for the gift of life.'" A nurse entered the room, interrupting the moment. "It's time, Mr. Stone. We need to prep you for surgery." Maya's heart raced with sudden fear. This was it. The surgery they had been waiting for, hoping for, was finally happening. But with it came all the risks of major surgery, all the possibilities for complications. "Can I have a moment with my fiancée?" Elijah asked the nurse. "Of course. Just a few minutes, though." Thomas squeezed his brother's shoulder. I'll wait outside. See you on the other side, bro. When they were alone, Elijah pulled Maya close. I need you to listen to me, he said, his voice serious. If anything happens. Don't, Maya interrupted. Don't talk like that. Nothing is going to happen. Probably not, Elijah agreed. But I need to say this anyway. If anything happens, I want you to know that finding you and our children has been the greatest joy of my life. These past few months have been worth everything, Maya. Even if we didn't get another day, it would have been worth it. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks. We're going to get many more days. Thousands of them. We're going to raise our children together and see them grow up and have grandchildren of our own someday. Elijah smiled, wiping away her tears with his thumb. That sounds perfect. That's what we'll do. The nurse returned, and this time there was no delaying. Maya kissed Elijah one last time before they wheeled him away, then joined Thomas, Harold, and Diane in the waiting room. She had wanted the children to come, but Elijah had insisted they stay home with a nanny, not wanting them to see the hospital and worry. He'll be fine, Diane assured her, taking her hand. Elijah has always been strong. I know, Maya said. It's just hard to wait. Tell us about the wedding plans, Harold suggested, clearly trying to distract her. Have you decided on flowers? Maya smiled, grateful for the distraction. Yes, we're going with white roses and lilies. Simple but elegant. And the children will all be in the wedding party? Diane asked. Of course. Zara is thrilled to be the flower girl. The boys will be ring bearers. The conversation continued, touching on dresses and cakes and venues, all the happy details of the wedding that awaited on the other side of this surgery. It helped, a little, to focus on the future rather than the present. 4 hours later, the surgeon appeared in the waiting room. Maya stood up immediately, her heart in her throat. The surgery went very well, the doctor said with a smile. The kidney is already functioning. Elijah is in recovery now. Maya felt her knees go weak with relief, and Thomas steadied her with a hand on her arm. When can we see him? She asked. He'll be in recovery for another hour or so, then move to the ICU for monitoring. You can see him briefly once he's settled there, but he'll be very groggy from the anesthesia. Maya nodded, too overwhelmed with relief to speak. Diane pulled her into a hug, and Maya felt the older woman's tears mingling with her own. He's going to be okay, Diane whispered. Our boy is going to be okay. Maya nodded against Diane's shoulder, allowing herself to believe it at last. Elijah was going to be okay. They were going to have their future together. Later, sitting by Elijah's bedside in the ICU, Maya held his hand and watched the steady rise and fall of his chest. He was pale and hooked up to various machines, but he was alive and the new kidney was working. Elijah's eyes fluttered open briefly, focusing on Maya with effort. You're here, he murmured, his voice rough from the breathing tube that had been removed after surgery. Of course I'm here, Maya replied, squeezing his hand gently. Where else would I be? The kids. They're fine. They made you get well cards. I'll bring them tomorrow when you're more awake. Elijah nodded, his eyes already closing again. Love you, he managed before drifting back to sleep. I love you too, Maya whispered, leaning forward to place a gentle kiss on his forehead. Outside the ICU in a different part of the hospital, Claire Jenkins was also recovering from surgery. Maya had visited her briefly, delivering Elijah's gift and her own heartfelt thanks. Claire's husband was scheduled for his transplant the next day, the paired exchange working exactly as planned. It was a miracle, Maya thought, how strangers could be connected in such profound ways. How a woman they had never met before could give Elijah the gift of a healthy future. How a night 5 years ago could lead to 3 beautiful children and a second chance at love. As she watched Elijah sleep, Maya felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. They had come through the storm. The road to recovery would be long, but they would walk it together. And beyond it lay the life they had both dreamed of but never thought they would find. A life as a family. A life filled with love. The October day was perfect for a wedding, the trees in Central Park painted in shades of gold and crimson, the air crisp but not cold. In a secluded corner of the park, a small gathering of family and friends waited for the ceremony to begin. In a tent set up as a bridal suite, Maya stood in her wedding dress, a simple but elegant design in ivory silk that highlighted her slender figure and chocolate skin. Diane was helping her with the final touches, pinning a few loose curls back into her updo. You look beautiful, my dear, Diane said, stepping back to admire her work. Thank you, Maya replied, smoothing her hands over the dress nervously. How are the children doing? Perfect angels, Diane assured her with a smile. Harold has them under control. Zara is taking her flower girl duties very seriously, making sure the boys don't mess up their suits. Maya laughed, able to picture the scene perfectly. The past 2 months had been a whirlwind of activity. Elijah's recovery from surgery had gone remarkably well. He was still on anti-rejection medications, of course, and would be for the rest of his life, but his color had returned, his energy levels were up, and the shadow of illness that had hung over them had lifted. The children had started at their new school and were thriving, making friends and excelling in their classes. Zara had discovered a talent for mathematics, Aiden was reading at a 3rd grade level, and Mason had surprised everyone by revealing a gift for music. Maya had continued her work at the nonprofit, recently accepting a promotion to program director. Elijah had been supportive of her career, never suggesting that she didn't need to work now that they were together. He understood that her work was part of who she was, just as his company was part of him. And now here they were, about to make official what they had both known in their hearts for months. They were a family bound by love and choice as much as by blood. "It's time," Thomas said, poking his head into the tent. His eyes widened when he saw Maya. "Wow, you look incredible. My brother is a lucky man." "I'm the lucky one," Maya replied. Thomas, who was serving as Elijah's best man, offered Maya his arm. "Your chariot awaits, future sister-in-law." Outside, the small gathering of guests was seated in white chairs decorated with autumn flowers. At the front, under an arch of roses and fall foliage, stood Elijah, looking handsome and healthy in his tailored suit. His eyes found Maya as she appeared at the end of the aisle on Thomas's arm, and the love in his gaze took her breath away. The children were seated in the front row with Harold and Diane. As Maya began her walk down the aisle, Zara nudged her brothers and they all turned to watch their mother, their faces shining with happiness. When Maya reached Elijah, Thomas placed her hand in his brother's and stepped back. Elijah squeezed her fingers gently. "You are so beautiful," he whispered. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They had written their own vows, promises not just to each other but to their children and their future together. "Maya," Elijah began, his voice steady and sure. "5 years ago I met you and lost my heart without even realizing it. Then I lost you only to find you again when I needed you most. You've given me our beautiful children, your love and support, and a second chance at life in more ways than one. I promise to spend every day showing you how grateful I am, how much I love you and how committed I am to our family. You are my heart, my home, my future." Maya blinked back tears as she began her own vows. "Elijah, our story began with one magical night, continued through years of separation and now brings us here to this new beginning. You've shown me what true partnership looks like, what it means to be truly loved and supported. I promise to be your partner in all things, to share your joys and sorrows, to build our family with love and laughter, and to treasure every day we have together. You are the love I never expected but always hoped for." The exchange of rings was nearly interrupted when Mason decided to investigate the inside of the ring box rather than simply handing it over, causing a moment of laughter that broke the solemnity in the best possible way. And then it was done. They were husband and wife. As Elijah kissed his bride, the small gathering erupted in applause, none louder than the triplets, who jumped up and down with excitement. The reception was held at the Stone Estate in Bedford, the gardens transformed with twinkling lights and autumn decorations. There was dancing and laughter, cake and champagne, and through it all, a sense of rightness, of completion. As evening fell, Maya found a quiet moment with her new husband on the terrace, away from the celebration. "Happy?" Elijah asked, his arm around her waist. "More than I ever thought possible," Maya answered truthfully. They looked out at the party, at their children dancing with their grandparents, at Thomas charming Maya's friends from work, at the life they had built together in such a short time. "You know," Elijah said thoughtfully, "most people would say our story is unusual. One night together, 5 years apart, triplets, a health crisis and now a wedding, all in the space of a few months. Most people would say it's crazy," Maya agreed with a laugh. "But it doesn't feel crazy, does it? It feels right." Maya turned to look at him, at the man who had changed her life in so many ways. "It feels like exactly where we're supposed to be." Elijah kissed her softly. "I used to think I had everything I needed. Success, wealth, family. But I was missing the most important pieces. Our children. Love. And now I have everything. Now I'm complete." From inside they heard Mason's voice calling for them. "Mommy? Daddy? Come dance with us." They turned to see their children beckoning from the dance floor, their faces alight with joy. "Duty calls," Elijah said with a smile, offering Maya his hand. She took it without hesitation, and together they returned to the celebration, to their family, to the beginning of their life together. It hadn't been an easy road. There had been challenges and fears, misunderstandings and separations. But standing here now, surrounded by love, Maya knew that every step had been worth it. Every tear, every worry, every moment of uncertainty had led them to this perfect happiness. A happiness that wasn't just for tonight, but for all the days to come. Days of school runs and bedtime stories, of family vacations and quiet evenings at home. Days of watching their children grow, of growing older together, of building the life they had both dreamed of but never thought they would find. As they joined their children on the dance floor, the five of them moving together in a circle of laughter and love, Maya knew that this wasn't an ending. It wasn't even just a beginning. It was everything. It was family. It was love. And it was forever.